Hello and welcome to NTV Wild Talk with me, Smriti Vidyarthi. Today we're coming to you from the incredible Ngong Road Forest here in Nairobi. And this is why we're here. This is footage of the chase, capture and arrest of a suspected charcoal businessman. The dealers operating near the Mau forest are believed to have come from Transmara and have destroyed indigenous forest in Kimintet in Narok County and elsewhere. In the last 2 months, Kenya forest rangers have arrested 20 people found ferrying charcoal, impounded 10 vehicles and destroyed 2,000 bags of charcoal. The forest destruction has led to the drastic reduction of water volumes in rivers in Migori County and other tributaries in Kericho, Bomet, Kisii and Nyamira. On the show, I find out why forests really do matter to our survival, our economy and our environment, how much forest we have in Kenya, and why fighting for forests, like the late Wangari Maathai did, is critical. My guests are Mary Mwai, the ecosystem conservator at the Kenya Forest Service; Quentin Luke, a botanist born and bred in Kenya who became interested in trees and plants 30 years ago through the National Museum; Christian Lambrechts, the executive director of the Rhino Ark and the former secretary of the Mau Task Force; and Charity Munyasya, the deputy director of forest conservation at the Kenya Forest Service. Well, now here in the Ngong Road Forest, I'm joined by Mary Mwai, who works with the Kenya Forest Service and spends a lot of her time here. Good to be with you, Mary, in this beautiful forest, which I must say I've actually never been to before. How big is it?
Welcome to Ngong Road Forest Station. It's in Nairobi County and is among the 3 government gazetted forests. And the other 2, they are popular. You have the Nairobi Arboretum and you have the Karura Forest Station. Here in Ngong Road, we want to bring it out to people. It's a big forest. It's 1,224 hectares.
Oh, wow.
And majority of it is indigenous forest.
So it really is a big space. How does that compare to the other 2 forests that you've mentioned?
It's almost like Karura Forest, but here the difference is the main forest is indigenous forest.
Explain that to our viewers, for those who perhaps don't even know what indigenous forest means.
Indigenous forest means a natural forest, protected and conserved for nature, for recreational facilities, and also for protection of the fauna and flora, the animals and the plants that are in that forest.
Well, of course, I mean, if we look around now, this forest does look like it's in a very, very natural state. Unlike some other forests, you know, Karura Forest is often teeming with many people visiting, you know, riding bikes or walking their dogs. What kind of activities do you have to offer here in Ngong Road Forest?
Actually, here we have even bigger potential than Karura Forest.
Really?
It's only that we are in the process now of fencing it. I want to mention that Ngong Road Forest is co-managed with a community forest association. This is according to the Forest Act, which brings in the communities around the forest on board as far as the management of the forest is concerned.
I see.
Where we take care of their needs and they also help us to co-manage the forest. It's not just the policing, the one that you chase though we still have the guards.
Right, so this forest is actually co-managed by the community, so there is almost a sense of ownership.
Yes.
Who does or what areas do border Ngong Road Forest?
The forest is next to Ngong Road and near the Southern Bypass. And it's interesting to note the neighborhood here. We are neighbors with the Kibera slums. We have other 2 slums, Mutego and Motoine slums. And it's also good to note that we also have an affluent community of current community neighboring Ngong Road forests. And to the south, it stretches up to Bomas of Kenya. It goes up to Dagoretti Center and along the race course, that's where our station offices are.
So of course many people should not confuse this with Ngong Forest, which is nowhere here, it's all the way at the Ngong Hills, right?
Yeah, Ngong Hills is actually in Kajiado County.
Right, okay.
And Ngong Road Forest is in Nairobi County.
Mary, you mentioned that it's only now that your KFS, the Kenya Forest Service, is slowly trying to popularize this forest. Why is that? Why was it never open to the public before?
Actually, it has been open to the public and is being used at minimal rates. We have the sanctuary, the forest sanctuary,
Okay.
where the Community Forest Association offices are as you go to the showground. That is an area that has been open to the public for a long time, where we have even environmental education programs going on. But we are in the process of fencing. We have fenced section 1. There are 4 more sections to be fenced. And I know after we have secured this forest, because of its vicinity as an urban forest, it is going to serve the Nairobians, especially for recreational purposes.
Well, what are some of the exciting things that people can come and see if they do come to Ngong Road Forest? You know, if we do compare, you know, Karura has waterfalls, it has caves, it's got some wild animals too. So what does Ngong Road Forest here have to offer?
One thing that we need to appreciate now is enjoying nature at its best. And here we have closed forest canopy where you can sit and relax. We also have animals, like we have families of baboons. I think that is the main attraction here. And we also have for bird watchers a variety of birds that are here. So we have the trees in its natural setting, and then the monkeys, baboons, and also other, like the warthog.
Oh, really? All right. So lots and lots
Yes.
to see here. Now, as we're walking along, as I said, it is very natural, but over here I noticed sort of a bunch of much younger trees. You know, when we look at forests, we normally see tall trees hovering above us, but this looks very new. Explain to us what this is all about.
Natural forest, what happens is that it regenerates itself. So when seeds fall on the ground, they sprout and we get another generation coming up. But I want also to mention one challenge to the forest regeneration. And these are the invasive species.
Right.
We have the lantana and we have the Mauritius dons. They like struggle the small saplings that are coming up. But in our National Forest Program, that is our main activity, to clear the invasive species to give way for new regeneration to come up.
And how much of a challenge do you think that's going to be? What does it take to do that, to protect our forests from these invasive species?
I think if we consistently keep on clearing them, once the saplings come up, then the invasive species will not get space to regenerate.
Okay.
So we get our natural forests intact.
All right, and Mary, what are your hopes when it comes to Ngong Road Forest? Because you mentioned that, you know, now you're encouraging people to come on board, come and visit this forest. So say within 6 months to a year, what do you expect of this forest?
This forest, even previously, we don't have very major illegal activities. It's just because we are neighboring with slums, so little extraction. But what we are looking forward to is, even because of bringing the communities on board, working with them together, getting them to understand the need for this forest, and that we can even get more from this forest other than that coal that they get out of it. So I know we are going to work together with the communities because they are on board. We are working well with the Ngong Road Forest, Community Forest Association, and we hope to secure this forest and make it beautiful for Nairobians to come enjoy, and also for Kenyans.
Mary, thank you so much for introducing us to this magnificent Ngong Road Forest. There is so much more to learn. We will definitely be back, and hopefully our viewers will come along with us for a tour of it. Thanks for your time. So now on the show, I am about to meet a botanist. If you don't know what that is, well, you're about to find out. But first, I've got to find him. His name is Quentin Luke, and he told me to meet him in the forest. So I've got to just find my way here, because really there are a lot of trees and shrubs that I'm trying to get through. All right, Quentin, oh, I'm not so sure which way to go. Probably this way is best. It's really not a clear path. Remember that this Ngong Road forest is extremely natural. There you are, Quentin. Okay. All right, I made it through. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi.
Good to see you. All right, so here you are in Ngong Road forest with a big pole, it looks like.
Yeah,
And a bunch of, books and your bag. First and foremost, what are you doing right now?
well, I'm practicing the art of collecting and pressing plants
Okay.
in my study of the botany of this forest. I'm just going to demonstrate quickly what is involved in collecting a plant specimen and preserving it so that it can be referred to in the future, that it can help you to identify it correctly. It's very simple, and unfortunately it's a bit of a dying profession now, that,
really?
that people tend to just grind things up and put them into a DNA sequencer. But
Yeah. All right, well, before you get on to that, Quentin, let me ask you, what exactly is a botanist?
a botanist is a person who studies plants, as simple as that. There are different parts of botany, but the one that I'm particularly involved in is taxonomy, which is the actual naming of plants, which means that you have to figure out whether a plant is already known from previous collections, and you put the correct name on it. Or if you find that it has never been found before, then you actually describe it and give it a name.
Okay, well, in just a moment we'll find out why all of that is so important, but let's see you doing it, or let me know if I can give you a hand.
Okay, well, I'm just going to look around, see if I can find anything fertile. It's very important when you're collecting material that you try and get fertile pieces of the plant, because that's what helps you to identify them. Sterile bits of twig don't really help anybody.
Right.
But anyway, we'll go through here and have a look, see whether we can find anything.
And of course your long pole helps you grab whatever you need from these tall trees.
That's right. What I think I'm going to do is to see if I can just break off this little bit here.
And you do that by turning this
You turn it around and hopefully it breaks off. And if that doesn't work, then you pull it down and
awesome.
you snip it off. Okay. So now we've got a specimen.
Okay.
And I'm going to show you how then to put it in a press. This is something that kids can get a lot of enjoyment out of.
Yeah,
and they can, it's not got anything fertile on it, but I do know what this particular one is.
Okay.
So we'll go through back to my press there, and the art of drying a specimen has developed over the years. Now you can put them in a deep freeze to kill the plant very quickly.
Oh, wow.
And then you can dry it over a hot air blower or whatever.
Okay.
The original way was just to put them between paper.
And this is sort of a press, isn't it? Like a flower press.
That's right.
Although, and you've conveniently got the Daily Nation
That's
on
right.
top
I
there.
only use the Daily Nation. It's the only one to use.
Oh, right.
So here we have some like blotting paper.
Okay.
And you prepare the specimen. What you want to do is to make it look as natural as possible, as if it's still growing.
Yeah.
In this case, I'm going to snip it off there.
Okay.
All right, and then I'm going to stick that in the newspaper. You take a piece of newspaper, put it down, put the specimen in. Now, the normal thing would be to turn one leaf over so you can see when it's dried.
Yeah.
You can see it both the top side and the bottom side of the leaves.
Okay.
Okay. Now you would put a mark on it to show the number of your collection.
Yeah.
You would put some notes in a notebook. You put this all back together again. And then with a GPS, you would record the actual position of where you've collected it.
Oh wow! So you actually use technology for this as well?
Yeah. This has progressed since the old days.
Right.
And so you put that together and then strap it up and take it home.
Okay, and if somebody wants to, you know, start doing this, or at least collecting specimens, they don't have to have something as big as this. They could just press
They
it.
can have a tiny little piece of little thing this size,
Yeah.
enough to keep a few leaves and a few flowers.
Okay.
The important thing is try and do it to dry it quickly so that it maintains some of the color.
Okay.
But the important thing is also to be able to see how the leaves, you know, how they are arranged on the stem.
Yeah.
Whether they're glossy on top, whether they've got hairs, and more than anything else, if you have the flowers, you have, you know, you can see how the flowers are arranged.
Right.
And if you're in luck, you have the fruit as well.
Okay.
So that's all what it's all about in terms of actually identifying what we've got
Yeah.
here. Now, it just so happens in this forest, I worked here in 2001.
Right.
And I did a complete inventory of the forest, and that's here.
Oh wow.
So that's all the species that are found within Ngong Road Forest.
And how many are those?
Including all the grasses. So it's not just the trees, it's everything that grows here, but everything that is indigenous.
Yeah.
There are 315 species,
Okay.
all right? But that includes some exotics. And exotics are those plants that cause an awful lot of problems.
And by exotics, do you mean plants that naturally don't grow here and that have been imported,
They've been imported.
to Kenya?
Yeah, that's right. They've been imported and they take the place of indigenous plants.
Right.
They exclude some. They actually wage biological warfare on some. They have chemicals in their roots and things that stop other plants from growing. So it's one of the major jobs of the forestry department to try and remove exotics and allow the indigenous plants to thrive. You have different species, different responses to you know, shortage of rain, different responses to floods, different responses to air pollution. They're all the different makeups of all the different species that are so crucial in making sure that a forest survives and continues, number one, to produce oxygen for us to breathe.
Right.
That sort of thing. You can plant as many trees as you like.
Sure.
But, and I repeat this over and over again, trees do not make a forest.
What does?
A forest makes a forest.
Okay.
It is the interaction between all the different species, the insects, the fungi, all that. It is the ecology of a forest that is important.
Why is it important to be a botanist and to study plants and to research and protect and learn more about it? Why should we do this?
Well, number one, it is our duty, and I think it certainly was a Victorian ideal, was to learn about our world, to actually learn and document our world so as to be able to better understand it, better protect it. And I think there's still an awful lot to be done. I mean, I am still finding new species. You know, you children out there, you can go out and you can find a new species. It's still possible. It's not like a lot of the animals, if you're talking big mammals, that they are all already documented. But with plants, there's still an awful lot to know. You go to the Congo Basin, there are trees there that no one has described.
Really?
And it is knowing the trees, knowing what they can do, knowing how they can serve mankind, and also the fact that they are part of our world.
What can people do in their own back gardens or, you know, some patch of grass and trees nearby to contribute?
Learn about the plants, learn about them, get to know them. You don't have to learn these very funny sounding Latin names. You can make up your own names for them, just so long as you can relate that to what has been studied, what has been documented. You can learn an awful lot just on the internet of, once you have the plant's name, you can find out where it's distributed, how to grow it, what to do with the seeds, all that sort of information is available.
Okay, well, I've got to say, I would love to be able to come in here and say, well, I know the name of that tree, I know the name of that tree, and identify them all.
Let's start with this one. This one is a very young tree, but it does grow quite tall.
Oh, really?
Its Latin name is Cassipuria mollosana.
Cassipuria
Cassipuria mollosana.
Cassiopeiae.
Yeah, Malosana.
Malosana, right? That's
And
the Latin name.
That's the Latin
Okay.
name. I can give you the Kikuyu name,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is Musizi.
Oh, Musizi, so much more
Much easier.
Musizi. Okay, and how do you know that? How do you identify that?
One of the recognition signals on this is this this stipule on the growing shoot here.
Okay.
The leaves are opposite.
Yeah.
They're slightly serrated, and it looks like a Cassiopeiae.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the unfortunate thing, is a lot of it is what you're used to seeing and you remember. But
Okay.
that's a Musizi.
All
This
right.
one behind me here, this one with a scaly trunk there, it's very easy to pick out in the forest, but you just have to look at the trunk. You don't have to look up there.
Ah, okay.
With this sort of mottling like this, this is a thing called Rawsonia lucida.
Okay.
And
Rawsonia
this
lucida.
has
Okay.
edible fruits when they're ripe. There's actually one up here, but it's not ripe yet. There's a
Where?
little fruit there on the end.
Ah, yes. Yeah, I see that.
When that's ripe, you can break that open and eat the inside.
Oh,
of it.
and people actually eat that?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, awesome. If only it was ripe. Okay, great. How many species of trees are there in Kenya?
We've got 935 species of tree. That is excluding all the exotics. All the ones that have been brought in from Australia, from Canada, from
Yeah.
Australia, from America. The ones that actually originate from here are 935.
All right, Quentin, thank you so much for your time on NTV Wild Talk. Much appreciated.
Right, thanks.
Well, we are talking trees, 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 and more trees, and the importance of them, and especially the importance of forests. We'll find out so much more after the break. This is NTV Wild Talk, coming to you from the Ngong Road Forest. But first, before we take a breather, here is that wild guess question. List the 3 gazetted forests in Nairobi County. List the 3 gazetted forests in Nairobi County. To participate, all you need to do is like the NTV Wild Facebook page. The first person to answer correctly wins 2 nights for 2 at the Rhino Retreat, a self-catering guest house of the Rhino Ark Charitable Trust in the Aberdare National Park. Located in the middle of the forest, it has stunning views of Mount Kenya, and the salt lick in front of the retreat attracts plenty of wildlife. The winner also gets 1 bottle of wine courtesy of Wines of the World and a gift hamper courtesy of Wildlife Direct. Terms and conditions apply. Last week's lucky winner was Jessica Yegon. Welcome back to NTV Wild Talk with me, Smriti Vidyarthi. Here is a reminder of our wild guess question. List the 3 gazetted forests in Nairobi County. List the 3 gazetted forests in Nairobi County. To participate, all you need to do is like the NTV Wild Facebook page. The first person to answer correctly wins 2 nights for 2 at the Rhino Retreat, a self-catering guest house of the Rhino Ark Charitable Trust in the Aberdare National Park. Located in the middle of the forest, it has stunning views of Mount Kenya, and the salt lick in front of the retreat attracts plenty of wildlife. The winner also gets 1 bottle of wine courtesy of Wines of the World and a gift hamper courtesy of Wildlife Direct. Terms and conditions apply. Last week's lucky winner was Jessica Yegon. So we're still here in the Ngong Road Forest, and now I'm about to speak to a man who knows so much about the importance of forests. That is Christian Lambrecht. Thanks for joining us. You've done so much related to forests, but you actually have a very different background. So what is it that got you interested in forests?
But in Kenya in particular, you will notice that the bulk of the forests are located on 5 main mountain ranges. And those 5 main mountain ranges are actually the upper catchment of every single main river in the country.
Right.
So those forests are actually the water tower of the nation. So if we are to secure and to manage the water resources of this nation, we have actually to better manage our forest resources. And this is what actually has brought me in looking after those forests, initially on a voluntary basis, and then in my official capacity as a UN staff member. and now as the Executive Director of One.
And Christian, what exactly is a forest? Because many people might just see a lot of trees gathered together and think, oh, there's a forest, or a few less trees, but still define that as a forest. So how do you really define a forest?
That's a hard question actually, because if you look at it, there are probably hundreds, I believe close to 800 way of defining a forest.
800 ways?
800.
Okay.
And of course it all depends about who you are, how you are looking at the forest. For everybody a forest means something different. And even in terms of forest density, what we call about the canopy cover, it might also differ substantially. If you live in Turkana, you will not see a very close canopy forest, a dense forest. You will have a semi-open forest. But for the Turkana, that is a forest. If you live on the foothills of Mount Kenya, the people living there see as forest the close canopy forest of Mount Kenya. So everybody is looking at forest in a different way. There is no doubt about that. But then I believe one of the big questions, in particular when it comes to the management of the forest and to achieving specific goals that the government can set for itself, like for example in Kenya, if you look at the constitution, we're talking about a target of 10% of tree cover. Kenya Forest Service is committed to increase the forest cover of Kenya. Then the question is, what do we know about the forest in the country?
So how much forest cover do we have?
It is not actually such an easy question, because the amount of forest cover we have depends largely on the way you define forest. And one of the key characteristics to define a forest has been what we call the canopy cover. So when you look at a tree, the tree has a crown. That crown is called the canopy. And when you look at the amount of space that canopy cover take on the ground, that's actually the canopy cover. Okay? So in some forests you have the tree canopy interlocking. The trees are touching each other. When you look up, you can see that there is almost no space. In that case, we might have a very high canopy cover. It may be 85%, 90%.
So can we look around here and sort of...
Now, if you look here in the back, and you can see all those trees together, and you can see that the crown of the trees are interlocking.
All over there. And when you say the crown, as you said, the top of the trees
are interlocking. So if you look at that small patch of forest, you may say that there is probably close to 100% of canopy cover. Okay? Now, if you look just on that side here, and you can see that many trees has been removed in the past, and you can see a big patch of sky. There clearly the canopy cover is by far less. It may be 10%. Okay? So depending upon the definition you use, you might have a totally different outcome. And interesting enough, there have been two leading institutions in the UN who has been trying to provide guidelines for countries in the way they are assessing their forests, the way they are actually assessing the canopy cover. One has been the FAO, and it's actually the leading institution, and the other one is UNEP. And they have been providing different threshold values. So a threshold value is a value of canopy cover below which we say there is no forest, and above which we say we have a forest. Okay? So to give you an example, according to FAO, if we have a 10% canopy cover, we have a forest. So what you see there will be actually defined as a forest. What you see there at large scale will be actually a forest. Now, UNEP came with a different definition, and it was a 40% threshold value. Very different. So if a canopy cover is less than 40%, there is no forest. If it is above, you have a forest.
So Christian, then what does all this mean for Kenya? I mean, do we have enough forest cover?
But yes and no, but it's still about how much do we have by the end of the day and how much do we need. So just to highlight a little the difference based on the definitions. Based on UNEP, we had only 1.7% of forest cover in the country. And this is the figure that the late Ngong has been using, because UNEP was considering a forest where the trees are much more closer together. If you look at the FAO definition, we have 4 times more forest in the country.
Wow.
So it is not that the country's forest is increased 4 times, it is just we use a different definition and we have a different figures. Now, do we have enough forest in the country? But I think there is nothing like a minimum value or a minimum percentage for a country to be stable. I think what is critically important is that the past country development and the future development of a country are depending upon ecological services provided by those forests. So what is critically important is to understand the dependency of our economic sector and our development and our well-being on those forests. And so those forests upon which we are depending has to be properly conserved.
But the question is, are people understanding this? Do they realize the importance of forests?
It's coming up slowly. For too many decades, forest has been taken for granted. Actually, they were being seen as idle land.
And what are some of the threats? Talk to us about that.
There are 3 main threats to the forest. One is probably of the past, but there are still 2 which are with us today. The first one has been the conversion of forest into other uses, in particular farmland. And that has been one of the biggest threats of all forests in Kenya for decades and decades, whether it is a regular or irregular process. And we went through so many irregular processes in the 90s up to the year 2000 plus. And then the second main threat for the forest is actually illegal activities, the logging of trees, the making of charcoal in the forest. And those are illegal activities for commercial purposes. They are not for subsistence purposes. They are not to support the livelihood of the neighboring communities. They are actually a cartel involved in taking those forest resources for their own personal commercial gains against the benefit of the local communities and the nation as a whole. So that actually is probably the second largest threat to the forest. And the third one is that the local communities are still using the forest. They are still collecting firewood. They are still bringing the livestock in the forest. And the big question are those activities sustainable? Are those properly controlled? So those are actually the 3 main threats to the forest.
Christian, tell us, without forests, where would we be?
But without forests in this country, we will have no water during the dry season. And I believe that's probably one of the biggest threats that could happen to us. You might import oil, you might import food. Are you going to import water? We don't. So we have to manage our forests for the sake of securing our water resources, in particular in the dry seasons, where we are most vulnerable.
And are we on the right track in doing that here in Kenya?
I have to say that over the last decade, the Kenyan government has really waken up and is really trying to address the issue of the loss of forest cover in the country. But there are still much to be done. Every 3 months, we are doing aerial flight to both Mount Kenya and the Aberdares, as well as in the Mao, and there are still some key threats in those forests. And those are threats which are due to the demand of some products by Kenyans. And some of those threats are the logging of cedar trees. Actually, from all our observation, the most targeted tree species in all our forests are cedar. And cedar has been targeted to make fencing posts. We are dealing with a booming real estate development. People want to fence their land left, right, up and center. And most of the fencing posts are still coming from our forests. And we have alternative. Yes. And we have alternative. You have treated gum posts available in the market. You have so many more outlets nowadays as to compare to 10 years ago. If Kenyans want to contribute, before even planting trees, let's make sure that we don't use cedar posts to fence our properties. That will be the first step. And the second step, I believe, is to reduce the use of charcoal. Charcoal is probably at this stage the second most noticeable threat from commercial activities in our forest.
Okay, Christian, thank you so much for your insight into this. Very much appreciated. So joining me now is Charity, and she is the Deputy Director of Forest Conservation and Management with the Kenya Forest Service. Great to have you with us, Charity. Now, throughout this show, what we've been learning is about the importance of forests. And let me just inform my viewers actually about where we are right now. This is the Ngong Road Forest Nursery, and you'll tell us more about that. But KFS's mandate is, of course, to protect forests. But what else do you do?
Our main mandate is to conserve the forests. We have the natural forests, which we really conserve by ensuring that we co-manage them with the communities, because forests belong to all the Kenyans. And in this, we have the community forest associations, whom we co-manage the natural forests with. And also in the gazetted forest areas, we have the plantations. These are the forests which are planted for harvesting, for the timber provision, and for the construction industry. We also have the elaborate farm forestry program, whereby we work with communities in farm and dryland forestry. And this is whereby we encourage communities to plant trees, to protect what they have, and to plant trees in their areas for their own use and also for commercial use. And this will ease the pressure in the natural forest. In the natural forests, we ensure that the natural forests are conserved for biodiversity, because in the natural forest is where you find a lot of biodiversity of both the plants and animals. And also in the natural forest, we ensure that we are conserving the water catchment areas, because most of the natural forests are the catchment areas of our water, and Kenya is a water scarce nation. But if we protect our forests, our natural forests, we are going to ensure that as a country we have water. The other thing we do in the natural forest is to ensure that we give licenses, the way lease, for those people who are passing through the forest, like the pipeline, like Kenya Power, because most of these developments, they pass through the forest. We give the way leaves and licenses. Also in the natural forest, we have the ecotourism. This is whereby people want to have tented camps in the forest. We allow them, we give them licenses to have the facilities in the forest in a eco-friendly way. We also have in the natural forest the rehabilitation of the natural forest, where we do the replanting of the natural forests with indigenous tree species. And in some areas, we just need to protect the area and the natural regeneration takes place.
And Charity, how much of a challenge is it for Kenya Forest Service to protect and also maintain our forests here in Kenya? Because we have some huge forests and a significant or relatively significant number of forest cover percentage. So how do you manage it?
The biggest challenge we have is when everybody is interested in the forest and they think they can just go in and cut. And that is where we have forest enforcement, where we have our rangers who are there guarding the forest. But you see, you can't guard the forest 24 hours. When you sleep, somebody don't get in. Those are the key challenges. And then overgrazing. We have people with a lot of livestock and they want to graze in the forest. So in some forest areas, we have stopped grazing. Like in this Ngong Road forest, we have stopped grazing. Because when you graze, the livestock eats the young plants. And therefore the forest does not regenerate. And we have to, for our forest to continue, it has to regenerate so that it keeps growing.
You know, around us, I'm seeing some beautiful little miniature plants over here and also behind us when we started this conversation. Tell us, what is this nursery all about? What are these plants here for?
These plants, one, they are for planting in the forest area. The indigenous ones, like this pond here, these are for replanting, the rehabilitation, the enrichment I talked about. You plant those in trees which used to grow in this same forest. You don't bring alien species. So like this Pondocarpus gracilia, it used to grow in Ngong forest. Also, we have people who are interested in planting indigenous trees. They come to our nurseries and they buy the indigenous seedlings.
So people can actually come here and
people
buy?
People can come here and buy seedlings. And we have both indigenous tree seedlings and exotic tree seedlings. The exotic ones are very ideal for agroforestry. Those people who want to plant them in the farms, they are very ideal.
Many people and corporations as well are involved in tree planting. Is that a good way of increasing our forest cover here in Kenya, since that is what we're trying to do?
Excellent. That's very good. But we caution one important thing, that when you plant the trees, the maintenance of this tree to grow into a plant. So we are talking of growing trees, now not planting trees. Because if you plant and you don't nurture that plant, then you'll not have the forest. So we are encouraging everybody to grow trees, where you plant and ensure that you follow it to a particular size where it can grow on its own. Like in Karura Forest and Ngong Road Forest, because of the invasive species, we plant and maintain for 3 years. And the corporates who are planting with us, we really want to thank them because they have been so cooperative. They have been planting and maintaining for 3 years. And because of that, we have really rehabilitated quite a big of land in Karura Forest and in Ngong Road Forest.
Excellent. So it's really not just a matter of going, planting a tree and walking away thinking I've done my bit. You must maintain it and nurture it. Remember, that seedling then grows into something. And what a pleasure it is. I actually remember when I first bought some plants and I watched them grow and I watered them and nurtured them. It made me feel so good to see that growth, and you have ownership over it. Charity, you know, you talked about one of the challenges, that is people coming into the forest and thinking they can take advantage. What action does the KFS take on any trespassers? What authority do you have to catch the culprits?
We have the authority in the Forest Act 2005, whereby if you are caught in the forest after 6, you're supposed to be in the forest from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. If we catch you in the forest from 6 p.m., we take you in your own trespass.
Okay.
And if we catch you with the forest material which is not authorized, we also arrest you and we take you to court because we have a very strong enforcement and compliance division.
And have there
Kenya
been
Forest Service.
arrests made?
Oh, so many.
Really?
We arrest people every now and then. That is why
Okay.
we have our rangers. But you see, we have cases whereby we have these forest destroyers. Some of them are even armed. And that is why our enforcement and compliance division has even arms. We have the G3s, we have the AK-47s, because thieves are becoming wiser, and even as we are expanding.
How crucial is it that Kenyans understand the importance, and what is KFS doing to try and spread that knowledge?
We are educating, of course. Education on importance of forest will never end. It's a continuous process. And we are educating on the importance of conserving the forest and planting more trees where we are. And forests are very crucial because a country without forests is a dead country. Because 1, you have no water, 2, you have no biodiversity, 3, you have no raw materials for building, and every day we are developing. So forests are very crucial. Without forest, even agriculture will fail. So you can imagine a nation without food. So forest is so critical. Even cleaning the air we breathe in. Like in Nairobi, we have the 2 lungs, the Ngong Road and the Karura Forest, they are the 2 lungs of the city. So forests are very critical.
And Charity, we are here, of course, at Ngong Road Forest, at the nursery at the moment. But what are your hopes and what is your vision of the forest in, say, a few months to come?
In a few months to come, we are participating in the treathon. The one we are planting in Kenya. We want to beat the Guinness Book of Records of planting 5.5 million seedlings within 1 hour.
Wow.
One of the sites selected for that is Ngong Road Forest.
Okay.
So there will be a site in Ngong Road Forest for that. The other activity we are having, we are having the corporate planting within the forest. Also, we are working with the Community Forest Association. We are going to have a Community Forest Association training in the next 6 months. Okay. But our biggest vision for Ngong Road Forest is to make it another Karura.
And what then can your ordinary Kenyan that's watching or hears about this, what can they do to help and participate and make that difference?
Every Kenyan has a responsibility. You plant a tree if you have a place to plant. If you do not have a place to plant, protect what you are seeing. That's the responsibility of all of us.
Well, now you know that soon or even now you can access Ngong Road Forest. Do give it a try. It's a beautiful place. Well, that's it on NTV Wild Talk for my conversation about forests. And now we shift focus to our Wild Pick segment. Here are some of the photos that you sent in that demonstrate your love for nature. This is Emmanuel Adsango. He's at the Giraffe Centre here in Nairobi, enjoying nature, and he says that he was there just for his love of wildlife. And this is Joy Omolupi. She was at the Amboseli National Park. In this photo, she seems to be jumping for joy, and she says that she was there to celebrate World Elephant Day in 2015. She says we took 200 children from Kibera and Imbirikani schools to see the elephants. It was a day well spent. Then there's Peter Nzioki at the Kenya Wildlife Service headquarters. He was posing in front of the gate there and says he had gone to appreciate nature and enjoy the beauty of Kenya. On Mount Kenya, this is Simon Kanyiri. He was hiking up to Lenana Point and says that he was there exploring our beautiful country. And in the Tsavo East National Park, this is Mustafa Juma Mwinyi. He was posing and says that he was there to learn more about the environment and to get more knowledge. If you want your photos showcased on our Wild Pick segment, all you need to do is like our NTV Wild Facebook page. Just send in a photo that shows you celebrating nature via private message. Be sure to include your full name, tell us where the photo was taken, what you were doing and why. The Ministry of Environment, the Kenya Forest Service, various organisations and individuals are doing what they can to reform the forest sector and conserve forests. But as always, more can be done. You can play your part. Go out and visit the nearest forest to you. Plant a tree. Learn about the names of some of the trees that surround you. Or the very least you can do is show them some love. Give a tree a hug. That's it on NTV Wild Talk with me, Smriti Vidyarthi. Thanks very much for watching. We'll see you again next Tuesday, 10 p.m.
Doing something, crowds are busy clicking back.
Oh, in your pocket? Is that going to... Will that show or should we clip it? Partners and individuals are doing what they can to... Trees, trees, trees.